And with that chuckle, we welcome you to NBA Vault. I'm Rick Kamla. How are y'all doing? For nearly 30 years, the Clippers have been a California franchise. First in San Diego, then and now in Los Angeles. But a lot of fans might not realize this started out in the East as the Buffalo Braves. And today we will explore some of the team's early history with a man who was a big part of it. The one and only Ernie D, former Braves point guard Ernie D. Gregorio. And he joins us along with Gail Goodrich and Peter Vesey. Ernie D, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I watch you guys all the time. You do a tremendous job, and I'm very excited to be on.
Well, thank you for the compliment. Flanked by Goodrich and Vesey, your thoughts on that?
They're fabulous. They're the best. Gail was one of the greatest players I ever played against, and Peter's one of the greatest writers I've ever read.
Oh, man, we got to have him on more
You
often.
read his stuff, Ernie?
Constantly, especially when he wrote good things about me.
Yeah, I covered him, and I remember when the ABA was trying to get you out of college, Kentucky Colonels, you got a big contract out of that.
Yeah, well, you know, I played in Madison Square Garden and against the Russians, and that really helped me elevate my status. But I always wanted to play in the NBA with great players like Gail Goodrich, Jerry West, Oscar Robinson, and my dream came true.
You didn't tell Earl what was it, Mike Storin. You didn't tell him that, otherwise he wouldn't have bid so high.
You're right. I kept quiet during the negotiation.
Probably a wise move. Ernie D, we're happy to have him here for the full show, and it was back in 1970 when the Buffalo Braves entered the NBA as an expansion team. A couple of years later came the first step toward becoming a winner when they drafted Bob McAdoo. Big Mac was a scoring machine and one of the best shooting big men in NBA history.
Outside to McAdoo. Look at that.
Oh, man! They don't have anybody that can play the man. There's nobody out there that can stop them at all.
Bob McAdoo had the full package as far as an offensive weapon was concerned that I don't think has ever been equaled in a game.
I'll tell you what, Bob McAdoo was unstoppable. He was 6'9", but he had arms that made him over 7'3".
Here's a drive by McAdoo, double team. He is unstoppable.
He used to say, I was Magic Johnson before Magic Johnson.
McAdoo, maybe the finest big outside shooting man in the NBA.
He's a scoring machine. There's nothing you can do with the man. He comes at you from all angles.
The center, number 11, Bob McAdoo.
It was a faster game, and we created so many problems for the opposing team's centers.
McAdoo! Give him a little opening, and he will absolutely burn you.
There was a big dilemma. People would start putting their power forwards on me and putting their centers on our power forward. So the center was like left out there. He couldn't guard anybody anymore.
McAdoo puts it up. Oh, it's unbelievable what that guy can do with that round ball.
He's hot. He's burning up now.
That Buffalo team had firepower. Mac was the leading cannoneer.
McAdoo, he's been a one-man offensive show.
He was a go-to guy that knew he could score and wanted the ball at all times and in tough situations.
Look at Silas working on McAdoo, and now three men converge on him. Collins on the outside.
We used to do everything in our power to stop this guy, and there was no way you could do it.
When we signed Bob McAdoo as a free agent, it was the most pivotal move that we made in my career in Los Angeles. That really propelled us to a real dynasty-type team.
I'd been on some bad teams right before then, and to have a chance to play on a great team with a shot at winning the championship after you've done everything in your career individually, that's what made me pumped.
And if you're looking for another offensive threat, Bob McAdoo, the Lakers' prime scorer off the bench, could be it.
I remember one year, Clyde Drexler came up to me. He was a young player at the time. He asked me, why didn't I ever smile? And I told him, because I'm concentrating on the game. I'm not the smiling type of player because I'm so focused in the game. But after that last tick of the clock against the Philadelphia 76ers, I had one of the widest smiles that I've ever had in my life on my face.
3, 2, 1. The Lakers are the world champions.
I remember when he won that first championship, he cried like a baby.
Magic, congratulations. Tell me what Bob McAdoo has meant to this team.
I tell you, an offensive weapon coming off the bench. A big man who can do it all, run the court, block shots.
I've finally done everything a basketball player can possibly do. That was probably one of the greatest thrills of my life, winning an NBA championship, or being a part of an NBA championship team.
In Buffalo, Bob racked up many individual honors like he was talking about. 5 All-Stars, 3 scoring championships, and a league MVP. But it was with the Lakers where he earned the ultimate prize, helping L.A. win 2 NBA championships. Now, Ernie, what do you remember about Big Mac and what made him so special?
Well, he was a great shooter. He had that ability to take the big people outside where they felt uncomfortable to play him, and he would stick the jumper. And then the smaller people, the smaller forwards, he could just reach over with his long arms. So he had a great ability to score the basketball. He was a tremendous rebounder, could block shots. And for me, who led the league in assists, I was able to set him up. And he gave me a lot of assists. I remember those days.
McAdoo had a great mental attitude towards scoring. I mean, he really wanted the ball, right? And I mean, and that's what he knew he could do was put the ball in the basket. And if you were smart, you got the ball to him like you did.
To me, Ernie, talking to Jim McMillan, one of your teammates from the Braves, he was saying the most competitive person that he's ever played with or against. He said that he even remembers that when McAdoo went down, and he still is the assistant coach of the Heat, that Riley had to come to him and say, look, you're playing against Alonzo Mourning and our big guys every day in practice, and you're killing their confidence. He said you have to lighten up. So even in his late 40s, he was still giving them everything they could handle and stuff they couldn't handle.
No question. He was a competitor, and that's what made him what he was, a great player.
And a Hall of Famer, and that's Ernie D of the Buffalo Braves. We're coming back to talk more about him, the man who electrified the fans of Buffalo, our special guest, Ernie D. Gregorio. Keep it here on NBA Vault.
D. Gregorio. Many were skeptical when he was selected as the 3rd overall pick in the 1973 draft.
I think there were a lot of questions about this little college phenom, but he had an amazing competitiveness and mental toughness and abounding confidence.
D. Gregorio would immediately silence the doubters. Named Rookie of the Year, he led the league in assists and free throw percentage while leading the Buffalo Braves to their first playoff appearance. He would also dazzle the league with his flair for the spectacular and his uncanny passing.
It was like he had eyes in the back of his head. Teams would try to blitz him, and he would just wrap it around, throw a behind-the-back pass so easy. Passing was a gift for him. It was easy for him. And he made everybody, not only me, he made everybody on that team that much better.
Ernie D's career would be cut short by injuries, but his impact on the league in 1974 as one of the game's most electrifying little men will always be remembered.
I'm not sure he could touch the rim. I never saw him do that. But for that year, he was dynamite.
In winning Rookie of the Year in 1974, Ernie D set a record that still stands today. Most assists by a rookie in a game with 25. Now, we were chuckling here as we were watching that feature. Could you touch the rim, and did you ever dunk in an NBA game?
Earlier I said Pete was a great writer, but I take that back. That was his comment. I could put maybe about my wrist in it, but I could never palm the ball to cup it. But, you know, I got called for goaltending once against the Celtics. JoJo White went on a breakaway, and I pinned it right on the ball. I swear to God.
That's the story you tell your grandchildren. Now, I mean,
I'm telling you a bit.
That's a great
Where's
one.
Where's the tape for that one?
Look it up in the vault.
We'll
you guys
look it
got
up
the vault.
Hey, when Ernie would jump, we had to put it. We were lucky to get a dime underneath it. You know, come on.
That's a good
one. He was one of my all-time favorite guys to watch in college and in the pros. In the short time he spent there, we see the passes. You know, just. They say eyes in the back of his head. He was the eyes of the cutter, and he could get the ball to his teammates as well as anybody that I've ever seen play. I've seen Cousy. I've seen every guard from Cousy on. This guy could get the ball, not because he would get it to the guys when they could do something with it.
Yeah, at the right time.
Yeah. Well, we always hear the right time, but like that's what it means. So you can actually you can do something with it when you get it instead of that split second too late when you're okay. You got the ball, but now the guy's on you, or you're not in your comfort zone. So I'll tell you, I mean, not because he's sitting here, because I've talked about it for many, many years. This guy was one of the greatest ball handlers of all time.
I've heard you drop the name Ernie D before, and you were speaking favorably of him, which I thought was cool of you. Now, you told us something, or a story came up in the green room before we came out here, that Bob Cousy gave you an incredible compliment, said you were one of 3 players he's ever seen, including himself, that knew the pass before you even got the ball. And you know, he said Larry Bird, you and Bob Cousy were the best he's ever seen at doing that. And I said to you, well, what about Jason Kidd? And you said he didn't include Kidd, and he had seen Kidd play, so that puts you in some very lofty company.
Well, coming from Cousy, who was considered probably the greatest passer of all time, it's a heck of a compliment. But the thing that I could do, Rick, is I had an imagination. I didn't have to look down at the ball because I practiced so much when I was younger. So when I brought the ball up, I wasn't looking down at the ball worrying if someone was going to steal it. I was looking at my teammates cutting and getting open. And when you develop that chemistry, Peter hit it right on the head, and Gale did also. As soon as they're open and they make that turn, that ball's going to be right here, so when they catch it, they got an open shot. And that's what a point guard does. He creates opportunities for other players on the court.
You know, he got hurt. What year did you blow out your knee?
My second year, I had a torn cartilage, and that sort of made my career go down a while, and then it came up a little bit. But 5 years, I have no regrets. I'm sitting here on the NBA Vault, so it's special.
It's special to have you, Ernie, no doubt about it. Career cut a little bit short, but a lot of great memories, and we're here to relive them on the Vault. And we're going back into the Vault dive style for Buffalo's first playoff appearance when the upstart Braves took on the mighty Boston Celtics. How'd they do? Come back and find out. With Ernie D running the show and Bob McAdoo in the middle, the Buffalo Braves were a team on the rise in the early 1970s. And in '74, they made their first trip to the NBA playoffs. But standing in their way was the league's most fabled franchise, the Boston Celtics, who were out to recapture their glory. And here's a recap of that series narrated by Boston's legendary announcer, the late Johnny Most.
On March 30th, the Buffalo Braves played their first playoff game in the club's history. For the Celtics, it was playoff game number 222. Bob McAdoo was leading the Braves to what seemed to be their first playoff victory. At the end of 3 quarters, they held a 12-point lead. Coach Tommy Heinsohn sent his Celtics out for the final period after they had scored only 69 points in the first 3. Whatever Heinsohn said seemed to have an effect on Dave Cowan. The big redhead started to hit all kinds of shots. He scored 20 points in the last quarter, the highest one-period score by any Celtic in the club's playoff history. This, combined with Don Nelson's 10 points, pulled out the victory for the Celtics. The series seesawed, with each club winning on its home court. Game 2 was a home court victory for the Braves. Game 3 was a runaway for the Celtics, with John Havlicek leading the way as usual. His 43 points and non-stop effort was just too much for the Braves. Game number 4 looked like it might be a Boston win in Buffalo. With 9 minutes left in the game, the Celtics had a 10-point advantage. Then McAdoo, Hurd, and McMillan started to eat away at the lead. With only a half minute of playing time left, McAdoo put the Braves in front. Buffalo fans smelled victory. With 9 seconds left, John Havlicek banked in a running shot to send the game into overtime, or so everyone assumed. Buffalo took a timeout. Everyone in the auditorium knew the Braves would try to get it to their top scorer, Bob McAdoo, who had already put in 44 points. Buffalo did go to McAdoo, who fired from the top of the key and missed. But Jim McMillan got the rebound back up as the buzzer went off. The Braves won the game, evening the series at 2 apiece, and their fans went wild. Boston won the 5th game at home and returned to the Buffalo Auditorium for Game 6. The drama of that contest was squeezed into the last 10 seconds of the game. With the Celtics ahead by 2 points, McAdoo stole the ball and tied the score. Now it was Boston's ball with 7 seconds on the clock. Nelson inbounded to Havlicek. McAdoo blocked Hondo's shot right into the hands of JoJo White. McAdoo also blocked White's shot, but at the same time, he threw a block into JoJo as the buzzer sounded. Right there, the contact is made. Jack Ramsey, the Buffalo coach, did some foot stomping, claiming there should be 1 second left on the clock, but the officials ruled no time left for play, just for JoJo's free throw. There comes a time in every man's life when he must stand alone. His teammates can't help him. His coach can't help him. He must do it alone, and the pressure can be unbearable. JoJo White came to such a time. The game was officially over if he could sink a free throw. If he missed both throws, it meant overtime on a very unfriendly court. The tension was almost physical. In a situation like this, muscles tighten and the ball becomes a lead weight. Thousands watched in Buffalo Auditorium. Millions more watched on television. And the object of this pressure was JoJo White. The first won the game and way to the second round and an old nemesis.
After wrapping up that series, the Celtics went on to beat the Knicks and the Bucks to win the championship. But, Ernie, you guys gave them all they could handle, and that had to be a heartbreaking way for it to end with the McAdoo foul on JoJo White. Did you freak out as much as Dr. Jack did on that call? How did you see it?
Well, players like to see the game played on the court. You know, when you call a foul after someone blocks a shot and then there's contact, that's part of the game. And very seldom will referees make that call, so we didn't agree with that call at all.
Hey, let's talk about Dr. Jack. You know, obviously a great teacher of the game. What did he do for you in your career? And talk about him with the Buffalo Braves.
Well, he was a great coach. You know, there's no question. He knew the game. He kept everybody happy on the court. He knew McAdoo could score. He got me to get McAdoo the ball. He knew I could handle the ball, so he put me in that position. He knew Randy Smith could run really quick without the ball, so he knew everybody's role. Jim McMillan used to pop off picks, and Garfield Hurd was our rebounder. So he had a great grasp of what everybody could do as players, and that's what great coaches do. They know exactly what their talent is capable of doing it, and they put them in those situations to use those talents.
Did he make the right decision when the year you hurt yourself? And I remember I was up there in Buffalo when he made that decision to not to put Kenny Charles into your starting spot for the playoffs when you were coming off that surgery. What were you thinking back then?
Well, no player likes to be told that they're not playing to their ability. And in my opinion, it was the wrong decision. But you have to respect the coach and the franchise because they pay you the money. Do I agree with it? No, but you know, those are the Braves people.
Right, I thought he was a terrible coach.
You know, one thing about Dr. Jack, when you talk about great coaches and the way he coached, with your team, he really gave you the ball, and you were a running team. You were offensive minded. You were out, and you put up a lot of points, and you played a fast-paced game. Now he leaves Buffalo and he goes to Portland, and now it's all about defense and controlling the pace of the game and the tempo. And of course, yes, he's got Bill Walton, so things changed a little bit. But he had coached entirely different philosophies at two different places, and was very successful doing both of them.
And that's why I go back to my point, Gail. You do what your talent does. You know, they had that type of talent, and he adapted that way, and that's where he deserves a lot of credit for that.
You know, the year that he was hurt, right at that time, in the playoff time, this is a guy who had no athletic ability, basically, kind of like Gale. you know, couldn't jump, right? So now he's coming off
Gee,
a knee
thanks.
injury.
Easier for Peter to say, right?
No, I'm getting to the point. I'm getting to, wait, hold on. So I challenged him to a one-on-one game. I mean, the guy's coming off surgery, and I figured this is the one time I can beat an NBA player, and I played him one-on-one. I don't know if you remember this, but I played you one-on-one. Yeah. He beat me 10-0. He never let me touch the ball. Do you remember us playing? No. See, that's how. So you didn't remember it. And I told everybody else. I said the guy didn't even let me touch the ball, and he's laughing and talking smack the whole time.
Well, he's not supposed to. He's not supposed to.
Well, that was wrong.
You play winners outs.
You're right. You're right. Now you're not a player.
That's an NBA
But you had
guy.
one knee.
But it's still an NBA guy against a non-NBA guy.
Exactly.
So there you go. And Jack Ramsey, obviously a Hall of Fame coach, despite the decision on Ernie D. Well, we got to take another timeout, and we're coming back with more of Ernie's insights on the other side.
Well, my actual height is 6'1", and I guess you would have to consider me small. Most of the players in our league are much taller.
Gail Goodrich of the Los Angeles Lakers is one of basketball's most proficient little men. At 6'1", he is certainly above average height on the city streets, but not on a basketball court where teammate Wilt Chamberlain stands 7'2".
Well, I really don't have a definition per se, but I would say a little man in basketball would be a guard, say, around 6'2" or under.
Gail, let's set Jerry up, 4 on Frazier. Get some 4 A's for him, okay?
Gail Goodrich is proof enough that the little man is alive and well in pro basketball. The big men may sweep the boards and block the shots, but next time you see a 7-footer go in for 2 points with a behind-the-back dribble, let us know, because behind every good big man, there's a good little man.
Our own resident Hall of Famer, Gail Goodrich, from way back in the day, sporting that disco 70s look. And Gail, what are some of your memories of going up against Ernie D and the Buffalo Braves? What kind of competitor was this dude right here?
Oh, he was a great competitor. You know, and one thing, again, one thing that Ernie could do is he really could see the court. He understood the game, and he had such great vision. And, you know, one good thing about trying to guard Ernie D is that a lot of times he's looking to pass, so he's not looking to score on you, which is good. I need that kind of help. But I also like playing against him because, you know, he's my size, so I could post up. And, you know, if I could post anybody up, I mean, that's good. I'm enjoying that. But, no, tremendous passer, tremendous vision, understanding the game, and you know, he really made that Buffalo team go.
Gail knows as well as I do, just because someone's small, right away they think he has defensive deficiencies or whatever, but they don't look at the whole package. Like if you look at Gail in that film and you look at his career and he's a Hall of Famer, why? Because he was a great scorer and he could do all those other things. I think when people have the impression you have to be tall to be a basketball player, and I think that's so far from the truth, because some of the greatest players I've ever played against, Gail Goodrich, Calvin Murphy, Nate Archibald, they were little quick guys that would come at you. They'd give you the most trouble.
Well, Ernie D, you were great for the league and awesome for this show. We really appreciate your time, and best of luck down the line. We hope to cross paths again soon.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Ernie D. Gregorio joining us here on The Vault. Our thanks to Peter Vesey and Gail Goodrich, and to you for watching. I'm Rick Kamla. We will see you next time on NBA Vault.